Hello, everyone. When it comes to Jasmy, could it realistically hit 26 cents off of this one particular sector? Now, we've done these outlines in the past. This sector, that sector, all these different sectors are worth pointing out, but more importantly, do we have some real solid updates in regards to Jasmy to support some of the hypothesis, if you will, of why we should all pay attention to some of these new updates, but more importantly, are these great examples of finally getting utility put into motion? I know I stated that quite a few times in the past, but that's where it's at for me. So many different projects out there in this space promise future utility and they do not deliver. Can Jasmy fulfill its promise of its roadmap? We're going to get into all of it. Stick around to the end of the outline. You'll be glad you did. But more importantly, let's get into the research. Back up this particular hypothesis of 26 cents from this one particular sector. How can that be done? Smash a like if you haven't done so already. Let's check out what we have for you today in today's Jasmy outline. So we're going to start off with this right here, and this is somewhat new. It comes from Brian, our friend Brian, a Jasmy ambassador. Start things off the right way. Let's go ahead and full screen this. He gets into quite a bit in regards to the outline. He goes on to mention the progression of it all, and believe it or not, even the Panasonic connection. We've been very bullish in the past about confirming speculation when it comes to Jasmy and that Panasonic partnership. But he goes on to mention what we're all wondering, and that is the progression of the Panasonic IoT platform. Is there a plan in the near future to build IoT platforms, basically with other companies that are larger than Panasonic? Of course, he has an answer for that. He says, we are steadily advancing joint platform development with Panasonic in terms of automatic cleaning robots and, of course, also spatial awareness. Goes on to also mention a little bit more details about device management. But it's the aim for collaboration with other companies. And we're going to get more into the outline today in regards to who that could be. Talks about the main goal in regards to it all, and that is to develop products as a result of their collaboration, of course, with Panasonic first. See, not dismissing it, but of course, it's his opinion that their business strategy has always been to co-develop enterprise-level solutions regarding data privacy and even storage. But at the end of the day, you have to have trusted data, and you have to have a platform, right? And I love this statement because I cover quant. Get rid of data silos. You have to have interoperability, right? So there's going to be phase rollouts, but the point is understanding that, these rollouts in themselves, Hara feels as though that there's going to be the intention of a phase one rollout to see, again, 100,000 PDLs, and if you're new, that means personal data loggers from Panasonic by basically year's end, hopefully, right? And that means that 1% of Panasonic's goal is in connecting their 10 million customers, of course, to the platform. Now, as we get further into this, I discovered some things that I want to get into. And, all of us are gung-ho about any talk about the KPI target of $17, but it's the path forward, achieving some things, 1% of certain sectors. I'm going to get into that as well. This was posted August 23rd. He tagged me in it, and I do appreciate that. He goes on to mention the revenue model. As we get more into the outline, you will see more examples in regards to why this revenue model is so important for your understanding, especially as a holder or a person that's potentially thinking about jumping into Jasmy. Talks about the revenue model. One, the expansion of service providers. As we know, Jasmy contributes service providers to reduce their information management costs and expand, of course, their platform. These examples that you see here date back, of course, to the roadmap, white paper, so on and so forth. But when you see the concept of a payment for consideration and how it breaks it all down into an ecosystem by expanding the volume to increase, of course, the value of data, well, you can understand and appreciate where we're going to go with this, because it's the platform. Don't ever forget it. The goal of achieving increased users for the platform is going to allow data loggers to increase the total amount of data value that comes with it. And a lot of times people look over that. They look past that. They don't understand the bigger picture. For me personally, I want to get into the weeds of why I'm bringing you guys an update. And basically, here it is. Many times in the past, I have talked about specifically patents for certain people that are part of the Jasmy management team. Once again, Tadashi Morita. Why am I bringing it to you guys today? Because literally today, Thursday, August 29th, I saw this. And in my opinion, with the research, this is in alignment with all the recent announcements in regards to what Hara-san has mentioned, as well as some other updates you've seen from other ambassadors, researchers, and so on. Hear me out on this. You're going to want to stick around and pay attention to this. Let's full screen this. Justia patents. Okay? So we see here key assignees. Okay? And basically, it's this one where it says object detection device, object detection method, recording medium. Okay? Originally filed November 14, 2023, but publication date was literally today. Now, I understand where, Icy Amphibian was telling me on X, shout out to you, Icy, and that is, he stated that when having him take a look into it, I said, hey, brother, why don't you see if this is an alignment? I like to get, your 2 cents. And he feels as though that my description of it all is accurate, but it assumes that Jasmy's technology, which he doesn't see necessarily in the patent, it assumes that the technology is there, but again, we don't see it. A lot of times we get examples of, how Jasmy is indirectly involved in things, going from speculation to confirmation. I want to put that disclaimer out there. And I'll show you a little bit more in regards to DipMetaVerse's research from the past. But for me, I think whether it says it or not, there's something going on here, because again, it's the news that's been put out. And is it a perfect case of buy the rumor, sell the news? I don't think so. But again, I'm going to jump more into why I feel this is all relevant. So I'm going to full screen this. Let's take you over to here. And, again, Tadashi Morita, I'm not familiar with this other guy, but does it hold weight? Well, jumping more into it, you will see that on this particular one that's an update, that you have the whole goal of detection devices, you have the whole goal of recording some of these things, but constantly see these references in regards to ultrasonic sensors. And you see the whole thing of, the timing of it all, and, the ECUs, which, if you didn't understand what that meant, is basically, electronic control units. All right. So how do we use existing technology, right, from like even Web 2 to basically use the examination and bring this all to like Web 3? Of course, there's a summary. Thought I'd get more into it just in a bit, but before I do, thought I would bring you a little bit more of why I'm going to pound home this hypothesis of the patents, the many patents of inventor Tadashi Morita. Of course, like it says, he has done quite a few different inventions and so on. But again, it's understanding that he's been more than consistent, whether it's his time with Sony, CSL, Computer Science Labs, and so on. You constantly see over a course of many different years things that are in line of what Sony is doing, Jasmy is doing, and IoT, ranging devices, the recording of such things. Get more into it, for example, some of these things about, generation circuits and how all these things are tied into like IoT, dating back to like even 2022. Power supply. We understand that, he himself has had a robust background when it comes to power grids and you name it. He's a very well-renowned, well-respected person, but tons of experience dating back many, many years with Sony and what he brings to the table. Okay, so a while back, DipMetaVerse had some research, and we're going to get into that in a bit. But the thing I want to share with you guys, because I know it's a lot to take in, is this. Here's a summary about this recent patent, because it would take way too long to basically get into it. I'm going to explain this to you in a way that I think I want you to listen to it, and you let me know if you feel as though that this is an alignment from all the recent news. So, is this significant, this particular update of this patent, and is it truly in line with, again, all the news? My answer is yes, but I want to provide you some info. So, in the outline, or from the patent, if you're going to look into it for yourself, go to Justia Patents. And I've also taken your advice, Icy, and I've also looked into JPAT, Japanese platform for patent information, and I didn't see anything posted there. But the point is that there was things mentioned in the patent in regards to accurate wind speed measurement. Now, with all the recent developments about the NCCX, National Carbon Credit Exchange, we have seen visuals in regards to some of those things about wind. Heck, there's even pictures of turbines and windmills and so on. So, accurate wind speed measurement from the patent itself. Anybody, if you're putting research, you can look into this yourself. It's the ability to accurately measure wind speed, and as we know, that's crucial for numerous applications. So many things tied into IoT specifically, but it mentions like aviation, meteorology, renewable energy. How many times do we hear about renewable energy? The device's use of ultrasonic waves ensures precise measurements. An updated patent in regards to that. Goes on to also mention that there's this thing about vehicle state estimation. Now, in the past, we've done tons of research when it comes to Toyota, potentially even Honda, because Honda and Panasonic in the past and so on. And from what I gathered, it's estimating in this patent like things like a vehicle state based on wind speed, devices that can provide valuable information for tasks like adaptive cruise control, collision avoidance systems. Again, these are all IoT. And of course, also autonomous driving. They even have a thing in there in regards to, if you're going to read the many, many pages about this, about technology that can enhance safety and enable early detection of potential hazards. Strong winds that could affect vehicle stability, right? And also the improvement of the efficiency of optimizing vehicle performance based, of course, on environmental conditions. Now, I know that's a lot to get into right there, and trust me, if I would have went further into it, you've been bored with it. But the key thing is collecting that data, and where does that data go? So we get more into this. Hear me out on this. There will, of course, be implications moving forward in regards to Jasmy, and that is with the new patent from this, whether it's Jasmy connected or not, it's the valuable experience from Tadashi Morita, even from an advisor point of view. Because we have seen numerous examples, whether it's from Hara-san or other people, about Jasmy expanding into other markets. Hear me out on this as well. I'm going to get into about roughly 3 points going forward of why this is important. Jasmy, as we know, is exploring new market segments. And basically, it's going to require accurate wind speed measurement and vehicle state estimation. I mean, all these things are tied into IoT, Internet of Things. But when we talk about automotive and like transportation itself, like all those examples I given in the past in regards to like bullet trains and buses and you name it, they all come back full circle to the concept of renewable energy industries. And as a result, the product in itself, whether it's the personal data locker and so on, has to be more diversified and have a broader reach to a bigger ecosystem. So this update in regards to this patent, from what I gathered, would be integrated potentially to existing Jasmy products. Go look it up for yourself if you're the nerd that wants to do it. There's plenty of people in our research community. I'm sure some of them will be maybe invigorated to look more into it. But it's the idea that Jasmy's products would be used as a standalone solution. And that in itself means supply and demand forces at play. How so? It's the concept of offering customers, you heard me right, a wider range, of course, of options. What I also gathered is this is definitely a technological advancement. The development of this tech demonstrates Jasmy's commitment to innovation and research. But even though it doesn't say directly Jasmy, say what you want, the timing of things. So, innovation and research in itself. That brings me over to the next particular part that I want to get into because it's how Jasmy will position themselves as a company and also as a leader in the field of object detection and related applications. As we saw originally, when Jasmy was in the 0.00 range, 5, 6, and so on, many months ago, and it had that boom surge twice, it was because of what they were indirectly not part of. And a lot of times that doesn't get mentioned enough. So it's understanding that the news of like CMOS image sensors was a big deal. But when we see the concept from this patent about object detection and things like, for example, how do we leverage this tech? Well, say what you want. The personal data locker in itself definitely leverages the tech because there is problems that exist in the world when it comes to data privacy. And I have some really good examples that are new that gets into this, even tying into the United States. All right, a little bit more that I want to get into for you to understand. And that is when we talk about the significant achievements from the great Tadashi Morita, we have to understand that there's implications, of course, again, for Jasmy. So Morita, as we know, has continued involvement in cutting-edge research and development. I will show you an example a little bit later in the outline in regards to Sony Computer Science Labs. There was a book that was written, an IC Amphibian. Actually, I guess recently purchased one of the last copies from Amazon. But the point is confirming what's in books written in the past and how do we bring that to light for now going into Web3. Well, it's referencing the cutting edge research and development from people like Morita because it solidifies Jasmy's position as a pioneer. Yes, pioneer in the field of IoT and, of course, data monetization. As we get towards the end of the outline, you will see those examples and how it all makes sense. The patent in itself, again, if you're going to nerd it out, showcases the company's commitment to innovation and its ability to develop proprietary technologies with real-world applications. But again, understand, it doesn't necessarily say Jasmy, but say what you want. Tadashi Morita is part of the Jasmy upper echelon. So there's something to be mentioned there. For me, it's understanding that object detection systems in itself to have new patents, especially in this time entering into this national carbon credit exchange, definitely is something that holds weight that we should all, pay attention to. But object detection itself, described in this patent, has the potential to be integrated, of course, into various IoT applications. And that is something that I just couldn't dismiss. There is things for as far as autonomous vehicles. There's even smart factories. Think about that for example. Urban infrastructure. It definitely opens up different avenues for Jasmy moving forward because, again, they're trying to expand market reach and generate additional revenue streams. Not just one, but many. That's the beautiful thing of IoT. So for me, going forward, I want you guys to keep this on your mind. Data monetization and how we achieve some of these particular goals. I'm going to take you over to an update. And it comes from this site called automotivedive.com. Now, it's going to start off with April 10th of this year. But more importantly, as we get more into the outline, you will see even an update in regards to 2 days ago. Why is that important? because it aligns itself with this particular patent. I was blown away with what I found. Wanted to share it with you guys. And it's been a little while, a couple weeks since I gave you a Jasmy update. So let's dive into this and let's show you something. Number one, from this site, U.S. private equity firm does what? Well, they buy majority stake in Panasonic Automotive. Goes on to mention companies expect transaction to close by the end of Q1 2025. Now, of course, this is an example from an Acura MDX Type S, but the point is understanding that under this deal, it says that Apollo Funds private equity firm agreed to purchase a majority stake in supplier Panasonic Automotive Systems for 311 billion yen. And that's basically $2 billion. That was back in March of this year. Under the deal, Panasonic Holdings, the company's current owner, will maintain a minority stake in Panasonic Automotive. It will continue its strategic relationship, of course, with Panasonic Group. And more importantly, companies expect the transaction to close by the end of the first quarter 2025. Now, if you're wondering how do we tie a lot of this stuff in, again, understanding supply and demand forces. Because when you see statements like this, about how other suppliers, including Continental and Goodyear, are retooling their strategies and operations into the auto industry to transition to electric and software-defined vehicles. Think about that. Panasonic in itself, their automotive team, will offer a vision and sensing technology integrated into cockpit systems and other in-vehicle electronics for automotive applications, including autonomous vehicles, SDVs, and even connected services. So that's interesting to see some of that. But is that all I have? No, it's not. From what I also gathered in regards to helping you understand why this is a big deal, for me, it's understanding that, what does this mean for Jasmy moving forward? I mean, I would be asking that if I was you. So this, in fact, is a strategic partnership. We've been there. We've done that. But the partnership between Panasonic Automotive and, of course, this company I was referenced, which is Apollo Funds, would definitely accelerate the company's growth and position it as a global leader in automotive electronics. Now, where do we go with the Jasmy connection? Hear me out. We're going to connect that in a bit. Apollo's financial resources and expertise can support Panasonic's automotive investment in research and development. Say what you want. Tadashi Morita was with Sony Computer Science Labs. And that book, and I'll show you an example here in a bit, is basically in alignment with that. So where do we go from here in regards to like the focus on automotive electronics or IoT devices? Well, this acquisition itself, from what I gathered, aligns itself with increasing demand for advanced automotive electronics, such as, and hear me out, because this is going to get back to that patent update that literally happened today, because such vision and sensing technology being upgraded or integrated, I should say, into cockpit systems, vehicle electronics for autonomous vehicles. Can you not understand the connection to Jasmy's IoT platform? But Panasonic in itself is a huge partnership, of course, for Jasmy, because Panasonic Automotive's expertise in these areas position it well to capitalize on the growing market. But more importantly, is Jasmy's underlying tech being involved. Say what you want, IoT and the personal data locker all comes together. Okay, so we talked about how it all comes together to a sense. What more potential can we have or derive from this? Well, it's a specific impact, of course, on Jasmy. And where I'm going with this is like things like Japan Advanced System for Medical and Wellness, for example. While it's not directly mentioned in the press release from that article, understand there's more implications that could benefit, of course, Jasmy, us, the retail holders. There's definitely like synergies with healthcare technology, for example. And we share this in numerous deep dives. Those particular deep dives I've done didn't get a ton of views, but medical data in itself is the data that's worth the most. We've talked about this before in the past, but Jasmy's tech has applications in the automotive industry. And of course, as we know, health monitoring for drivers or in-vehicle medical devices. Partnerships with Panasonic Automotive would definitely lead to synergies, cross-selling opportunities. I mean, again, what's indirectly involved is also huge for anybody to understand. But it's market access. Say what you want, for Jasmy to be part of a larger, more established company like Panasonic in the automotive connection, it would increase Jasmy's visibility and market access, especially in the automotive sector in itself. Would there be a potential for investment from Apollo funds? Yeah, but it's the indirect ties of what's being used, whether it's the utility of the PDO and some of these other things being used. Again, the sensors and where that data is being held. That is the underlying tech that doesn't get mentioned enough. All right, I'm going to jump into this example that is from literally 2 days ago that I was talking about from the same site, Automotive Dive. You can look at it for you if you want. It's called automotivedive.com. And the name of the article is automakers FTC data privacy connected cars. Okay, let's pull this up for you if you happen to be watching. Some of you guys are just listening, driving down the road, and that's fine too. Be safe out there. But the point is, automakers face growing data privacy challenges. And, experts really try to get into this. But again, think about this. GM has a big problem. Again, understand supply and demand forces. So Federal Trade Commission has a crackdown and lawsuit against GM show automakers, and it's increasing, right? It's like there's a lot of legal risk involved with it all. But guys, look at this. Look at the date on this. August 27th, literally 2 days ago. Goes on to mention more about this data collection lawsuit. I mean, even that right there says to me, oh man, moving forward, this creates more supply and demand for the likes of Jasmy. But look what it says. There's a lawsuit against GM, and basically it says things come as connected vehicles face greater legal scrutiny from regulators, according to experts who, share this with Automotive Dive. Remember, guys, in the past I talked about X's data privacy problem, Elon Musk data privacy problem. GM has a huge data privacy problem. Understand, supply and demand forces. When you see pumps with things like Jasmy and so on, and you don't understand how the heck it happened, I hope some of us have paid attention to some of the research. But General Motors facing a lawsuit over claims it unlawfully collected and sold private driving data of 1.5 million people to Texas to third parties who purportedly used the information to score driver behavior and sold it to insurers to manipulate consumers' insurance rates. This is where in the future, guys, think about it. I'll come back into the frame for a moment. When we talk about everything being immutable, everything being verifiable, everything on blockchain on a public ledger, okay, that's a concept. But with Jasmy, you really have a mechanism in place with a personal data locker to protect all this so it doesn't go to where it doesn't need to be. And more importantly, the utility put into motion with the personal data locker where you have data sovereignty. That's where it's at. Japan already gets it. They lead the charge. So again, don't be surprised when you see more examples of Japan leading the charge and your beloved Jasmy doing well compared to other tokens and coins, but it does it first because they're already there. Getting more into the outline, listen to this for yourself. Automaker allegedly did not inform customers it would sell their data or disclose it had contracts allowing third-party companies to resell driving scores to insurers per the lawsuit. In a statement, GM said it shares the desire to protect consumers' privacy and is reviewing the complaint. Okay. Hey, guess what? Newsflash. Just hook up with Jasmy. They'll get it done for you. But the bottom line is understanding, again, supply and demand forces. So this statement from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said that the state will hold GM accountable for its egregious business practices. News comes about 2 months after Paxton announced his office will be investigating multiple automakers over allegations, which stemmed from a March report. Think about it, guys. Think about the ones that are regulatory compliant, like in Japan. So to have Jasmy already leading that charge is quote unquote the Bitcoin of Japan. That's where that statement comes from. If you're new to all this, that is big in itself, because when we talk about going from Web 2 to Web 3, and you ready cross your T's and dot your I's, especially in Japan. Let's be honest. I mean, Toyota is huge in Japan, and other automakers from Japan really will stand out. This in itself will separate Japan from American automotive industries. Getting more into it, talks about in the August 13th press release about the violation of these rights of citizens and how it's unthinkable. This lawyer, Paxson, said millions of American drivers want to buy a car, not a comprehensive surveillance system that unlawfully records information about every drive they take and sells their data to a company willing to pay for it. Say what you want. Jasmy leads the charge because they are like the crypto knight disrupting an industry like Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple that definitely need to be disrupted. Maybe that's why we see examples about Apple trying to, reach across the lines and understand that this is the future. So they're investigating it, and they're trying to crack down. Is the bottom line, okay? Getting more into the outline of why I want to share a little bit more about this with you guys is this. And basically speaking, it's understanding that we can reference things in the past of why all this simply is a big deal, and why we bring it to you, with the research. I'm not the only one, right? There's other people, and let's show you another person. So IC Amphibian referenced this for understanding, and this is originally from DipMetaVerse. Shout out to him, so I'll make sure I give him a proper prop. I share this to X. DipMetaVerse 2 years ago talked about the 8 photos that will make you swipe, and I shared this actually with you guys in the past, so I'm not going to get so much into it for you today, but I like what he mentions. He says, looks like as of February 2021, Tadashi Morita, the guy that we're citing here from Jasmy Upper Management, he stopped working at Sony Computer Science Labs, and he is a contractor at Jasmy, so that means his time will be eventually up. As we've seen, guys, let's think about it for a second. We've seen the time being up when it comes to Kunitake Ando and the university that he was a dean of, if you will, right? Recently was posted about, I think, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, give or take. Don't quote me. But he stepped down, but he still is like an advisor. So this is all in alignment of everything on the bigger picture. DipMetaVerse goes into a little bit more detail about why this is significant, because basically we also already saw Mana Sobu Yoshida also retired. Keep in mind, Yoshida represents the Y in Jasmy. So maybe their job is to get former leaders at Sony to lend some sort of expertise and influence and then depart from the project. I mean, that very well could happen even with Morita. But the point is, like he says, he can't, or he finds it hard to believe that Kunitake Ando will be around forever. He is up there in the ages, in his 80s. He feels like he's a head figure, kind of like the Queen of England, and once Jasmy can enter certain markets, he'll step down. So would Morita step down, right? And of course, Morita also owns a business called Interactive Promotions. So there is no surprise there. I would agree with that. Getting more into the patents, I decided to go into JPAT, Japan Platform for Patent Information. I didn't necessarily see anything specifically about the one we're sharing, but it doesn't mean that it's not being used. So thought I would at least reference it. Here's that book if you're interested. It's Out of the Lab Onto the Market, How Computer Science Labs Sony CSL Turns Research into Profits. Why am I sharing this with you? Again, back to the reference from IC Amphibian, because it goes down the rabbit hole about all this. All these guys that we have researched, think about it. They are doing what we're talking about, and that is, researching all this to turn into profits. The next level, and that is what Jasmy's doing. Here's the book if you're interested in getting it. Maybe I can share it on this channel. If you are a fan of the channel, who knows, maybe I can get like a small percentage that helps benefit the channel if you choose to do so. If you're like, Ski Max, I understand that too. All right. So we're going to get into the next part of why this is important. So, again, think about this. Pioneering tech promotion seeks marketplace opportunities for groundbreaking research. It's the role of all this, the role that will be increasing in regards to how organizations will seek and also seek efficient and effective applications of basic research. Again, apply this to the Web3 era that we're entering into. That's why I'm sharing it with you guys. Shout out to Icy. All right, let's get into this part because you know what? This is becoming, again, quite the deep dive, and I get that. But the bottom line is getting into a little bit more of the, of course, research. So I want to share this with you as well. And basically speaking, this is in regards to this outline again from the one and only Brian. Give him a follow at WC3068. And it's a little bit more about Jasmy's IoT communication modules. Now, I like this reference because when we talked about that book, well, keep in mind, everybody, keep in mind that the main business of Jasmy is ran by Ando and also Sato-san. And like it says, AI times IoT times the consortium blockchain business. And the Web3 side of the business is ran by Hara-san. Jasmy Labs, Junction, Jasmy Coin. A lot of what the main business does in the near future to onboard companies into the platform may not seem or may not be at all mentioned, but the point is Jasmy is a private company and has no obligations to disclose licenses who may require privacy. Again, respecting NDAs. So I thought I'd point that out as well. And then get into the next part, back to the main topic. And that is, how will the carbon credit market generate value for Jasmy Coin? How long ago was this posted? Basically the 24th, a few days ago, right? So he goes on to mention some of these things. And a lot of us are wondering about this, right? So I will answer some of these questions because, I mean, this is a deep dive in itself. But, you know, Jasmy Coin, will it have direct or indirect utility regarding the carbon credit and P2P energy markets? If Jasmy won't have a utility in the carbon credit or peer-to-peer energy market, then you could explain, or can you explain, why Jasmy Coin holders should be concerned with the success of the carbon credit exchange? I mean, again, how can we be so bullish on something speculative, right? Well, here's the answer. The biggest challenge is the deployment of the Jasmy blockchain platform as one of the standards for carbon credits, of course, in Japan. Building the infrastructure of an exchange means that we can expect it to see the development of applications and companies that utilize the credits. As you know, carbon credits are not something you buy and sell on exchange to offset your carbon footprint and receive a certificate. But we can expect to see applications developed for manufacturing companies that handle more carbon and pass on the price of carbon to the products they offer for consumers. And of course, he gives examples and so on, and I am as well. But lots of mention about Jasmy, the National Carbon Credit, or I should say National Capital Credit Consortium, and of course also Green Carbon. Why? Because it's what is basically coming out. And that is, from what I gathered, the launch is already in beta, and they're going to have an official launch in September. That would be utility put into motion, everybody. Getting into the next part of why I want to mention this to you guys is this. If we were to go to this site, which is called blog.dronequote.net, you'll see a reference all the way back to April 5th, 2023, of how it talks specifically about saving money and going green with Panasonic solar panels. Now, keep in mind, this is just from a solar panel side of things. Like there's other examples in regards to, you know, carbon credits and so on, but I thought it would bring you at least this one. So, benefits of choosing Panasonic solar panels. Hear me out on this. This is going to get good. So, decided to jump into this because it mentions specifically in 1.4.4 section of this outline about a reduced carbon footprint. Understand, again, Panasonic's partnership with Jasmy and vice versa. So it goes on to mention that Panasonic has a reputation, especially in Japan, for producing high quality electronics, including solar panels. Their commitment is to innovate and basically provide, many people with installed Panasonic solar panels to their homes or businesses. But they go on to mention that Panasonic solar panels in itself will provide efficient, clean energy while reducing, of course, your carbon footprint. What are some more of the benefits of that? It says, basically speaking, that by choosing Panasonic solar panels, there's benefits such as lowering electricity bills, increasing home value, and reduce carbon footprint. Okay, is that it? No. They said by investing in Panasonic solar panels for your home or company, you can expect to realize immediate and long-term savings that will accumulate over time. Think about it. Think about also Jasmy and entering into this whole thing of this carbon credit exchange, if you will. That will take time, but it's the accumulation over time. It says while lowering your carbon footprint, it will help protect the environment. Going more into this, what about the whole thing about home value? Well, it's that many people value environmental sustainability in homes with eco-friendly amenities. Again, think about that. That's 5.0, Society 5.0 written all over it. But there is high demand for it, even if you don't think there is in the United States. There definitely is over in Japan. Of course, other countries, maybe we're the ones that see it last. I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but homeowners, like it says, may demonstrate dedication to reducing their carbon footprint and preserve the environment by installing Panasonic solar panels. Of course, those are high quality, blah, blah, blah. But getting more into it, it's understanding that by using this tech, you can lower your carbon footprint and do part to mitigate climate change, supposedly, right? I understand why you guys are against this. I'm not trying to make it about this. I'm just trying to provide you guys research. So how can we, at the end of the day, reduce the carbon footprint? Well, even Panasonic has an example. How so? It says, using solar energy instead of electricity generated from fossil fuels, you can significantly reduce that carbon emission. And the use of Panasonic's technology will help decrease the demand for non-renewable sources, thus reducing the overall carbon footprint for homes, businesses, so on and so forth. So you can kind of get the gist of where they're going with this, right? But look at some of the stats. And are you aware of this? Probably not. I don't mean no offense. I mean, I wasn't aware of it. So no offense to me either. But this thing called VBHN, Panasonic solar panels, is the VBHN series, which stands for HIT. I don't know if I said HIT, not what maybe you're thinking of. N-type with VBHN technology. I know it's a big mouthful, but these panels have a high efficiency rate ranging from 19.4% to 21.1%, making them an excellent choice for homeowners looking to reduce some of their energy and carbon footprint. All right, so you may be wondering, why am I even bringing that up? I mean, you sound like I'm trying to sell a product from Panasonic. There's probably going to be some Yahoo that's going to be like, yep, you're paid to shill this stuff. No, I'm not. But the point is, look what it says here. They have a series type called N-type cells that produce more power in low light conditions like cloudy or misty days, ensuring reliable performance. All right, in the past, I talked about some of that cell technology. So I'm going to, at the end of the outline, give you guys two end cards. One will reference Tadashi Morita and his cell technology, and also, of course, Panasonic, and connect that, just in case you're new. For all you guys, remember that outline in the past, that pounds that home even that much more, because it's what's indirectly involved in regards to the Jasmy connection. All right, so bend down that rabbit hole. Let's take you over to here for a second. This is good as well. As we get into this, you will see another thing being mentioned, and I said this, myself. I said utility in motion. Shout out to Jesse, KR Finance. He said beta version of the National Carbon Credit Exchange, like we talked about, dropped right back on the 21st, with the official going live in September. If you weren't aware, the NCCX is the general exchange, while there will be separate one for local governments. Wow, that's a big deal. Absolutely a big deal. But more importantly, shout out to Jeremy Prime. Love that you were a big supporter of this channel, Jeremy. Thank you. He says, this is great news. He even tags me. He says, how does it affect the price of Jasmy? So I wrote this up, and I thought I would share it with you guys, because a lot of times I'm sharing other research. This is directly from me, my own notes and so on, from what I gathered. Well, a collection of research I gather and put in my own words and so on. But, Jasmy has launched at NCCX, okay? As we know, that's Carbon Credit Exchange. So it marks a significant step in Japan's efforts to combat climate change and promote sustainable practices. And of course, I'm going to get into why this is important. So it's the promotion of domestic carbon credits, everybody. NCCX directly supports the circulation of these NCCC credits within Japan, and it encourages domestic carbon reductions and fostering a more self-reliable carbon market. So say what you want. This connection to this exchange, this market, you can see how it's starting to unravel, become a big deal. But how do we provide a reliable platform? Well, offering a platform for the distribution of the reliable carbon credits, Jasmy in itself will be enhancing the credibility and transparency of the Japanese carbon market. Will it attract more businesses? I think so, but the point is, it will be businesses, individuals to participate in the carbon offsetting initiatives, everybody. Supporting consumer engagement. We always want that, but NCCX aims to make carbon credits more accessible to consumers. It would increase, or could increase, I think it will personally, public awareness of climate change and encourage individual actions to reduce carbon footprints. You may not think that's a real thing here in the United States. You better believe with the whole thing of Jasmy and Society 5.0, that is where it's at for them. They have a common goal. Maybe we don't have that goal yet. I think we will. All right. Would it strengthen Jasmy's position? We're all retail holders. We want that answer. The launch of NCCX positions Jasmy as a key player in Japan's carbon market. This could enhance the company's reputation and attract potential partners. I gave you examples of that earlier. All right. Would it excel carbon neutrality goals? Some people do bring that up. Maybe it sounds boring, but NCCX can contribute to Japan's ambitions for carbon neutrality goals by facilitating the trade and use of carbon credits. Where we get into the whole thing of the Jasmy connection. We'll get more into it, but it's boosting domestic economy. A thriving carbon market can create new business opportunities and stimulate economic growth. If you're wondering the Jasmy connection, you have to have a place to put that data. To have Jasmy be the first regulatory compliant one out there, and the use of the PDL in itself, respecting data sovereignty and data democratization, platinum data, or as we call it platinum data with trust, right? Data free flow with trust. That's a lot of flowing data, right? No pun intended. But it would definitely enhance Japan's global leadership in the carbon market. Japan can establish itself as a leader in sustainable development and climate action. But by having a mechanism of the PDL involved with some of this, that's big. And again, last part, it's big because it provides Jasmy's business in itself huge opportunities. As NCCX grows, Jasmy will have opportunities to expand its services and explore new markets. How so? Well, it's in relation to carbon trading and environmental technology. And of course, I did a couple of videos on this a couple of months. You'll see some examples, and I'll plug that in for you guys. But at the end of the day, like a lot of you guys are asking, how does it affect price, right? So that was the other thing I got into. It says, as far as price, none of this is financial advice, but you have to keep in mind the following, everybody. And hopefully you're still with me. I know I always do these deep dives, but it's the impact of NCCX on Jasmy's price. And it's likely to be multifaceted to depend on several factors. So we already talked about the whole thing of increased market awareness, but Jasmy gains visibility through its involvement, of course, with this carbon market or carbon credit exchange. It's definitely going to attract new investors, and of course, that increases the demand for the Jasmy tokens. Would it create revenue generation? Well, if NCCX generates revenue for Jasmy, it could definitely improve the company's financial health and bolster investors' confidence, potentially driving up token price. Again, supply and demand forces that nobody understands. What about market sentiment? Well, overall market sentiment surrounding carbon credits and climate change can influence the price of Jasmy. Positive developments in these areas could benefit the token. If anything, Jasmy could become the new standard leading that charge. There is competition. We know that Hedera is part of this, but and I hold Hedera, so don't think that's FUD. The competitive landscape within the carbon market will also play a role, everybody. Jasmy can differentiate itself and establish a strong market position. It could, positively impact the token price, but in reality, Jasmy is already differentiating itself because it was the first, like I said, to become regulatory compliant in Japan and offers a unique product with real connections. Don't ever forget that. Last but not least, the regulatory factors. Changes in government policies and regulations related to carbon markets could affect the value, of course, of Jasmy. Favorable regulatory developments could support, of course, price growth. And, of course, you're definitely welcome, Jeremy. All right. The other thing I want to get into is this. I saw some, extra info I thought I would get into. You guys do a basic search. How much will carbon credits be worth by 2030? There's multiple sources. This one's from Bloomberg. I cite Bloomberg quite often, especially when it comes to when I used to do weekend updates with you guys and so on. So carbon credit prices by 2030. There's been projections from Bloomberg stating, basically speaking, that prices could reach an impressive 146/ton in 2030 and 172/ton in 2050. I'm not going to get into the dynamics of how that's broken down, but this market would have an annual value exceeding $884 billion by 2050. So that's crazy in itself. A lot of you guys don't want to wait till 2050, but again, this is just one sector of the market. This doesn't represent all what Jasmy could have potential in doing, but it showcases the importance of riding the ship, if you will, in the voluntary carbon market and keeping demand strong. The other thing I want to get into is basically, like it says here again from Bloomberg, at this point, the market is valued at $1.1 trillion annually. Under the voluntary market scenario, prices reach, for example, some of the examples I just talked about. So that's worth pointing out. All right. At the end of the day, the question all you guys are wondering about, can you, in fact, earn money with carbon credits? Well, the answer is yes. So it says whether buying or selling carbon credits on a voluntary carbon market for a profit, how would you make money with this? Well, it's just like the stock market or create carbon credits. It's basically like how you go about selling them, everybody. You can earn cash with carbon credits. So think about this. When we get some of the stablecoin things going on with Jasmy, combine all that with some of this mentioned, you could kind of put two and two together, but you don't have to be a large business to earn these credits. And look what it mentions. Landowners, farmers can cash in on their carbon credits by using their tracts of land as carbon sinks or modifying their farming processes. Okay, what's the best part of it? Well, you don't need thousands of acres to capitalize on the carbon credit market. All you need to do is meet the minimum requirements set by the carbon marketplace. You plan to sell on, and the payoff amount is worth the investment of your time. Then you can start using any size of land to create carbon credits. Okay, that's interesting. All right. So my thing is this. I wanted to give you another example because this is again from Bloomberg. So it says in a BNEF's high quality scenario, prices are low in early years. Think about where we're at right now. The price is low. So reaching this statement, we could do a deep dive later on this. I've done it before, but I don't want to get so much into it today. But $20/ton in 2030. But it begin, you're going to see it rise rapidly. Think about that. As a milestone, years for net zero goals approach and reach 238-ton in 2050. Again, I get it. A lot of us won't even be involved in Jasmy maybe by 2050. You might not realize that, mass adoption at that point, people will be using the tech and not even understand what it's tied to. But at that point in 2050, the market valued at 1.1 trillion annually. I should say run up by 2050, like it says some of these examples. But under the voluntary market scenario, Prices reach just 13/ton in 2030, mere 14-ton in 2050. This would drive significant criticism around credits being a right to pollute for heavy emitting companies. The market would peak at a value of just 34 billion annually in 2050 and up to billion today. So that's a crazy scenario. And if anything, again, back to the whole thing about the 1.1 trillion. Okay. So my thing is this. When we go over here to literally jasmy.co.jp and you see info talking about how they're launching a beta version of all of this, it's crucial for your understanding, because you want to know something? You know, when we see that this exchange of the NCC credits, right, for NCCX, I should say, will launch the official one by September, you're finally getting examples of utility in motion. Now, this doesn't mean that this is mass adoption, but you all gotta understand we have to have a starting point to finally see this, finally getting some examples of putting that utility into motion. So if you're wondering about this company, they're called NCCC, conducted its first certification, July 16, 2024, for the soil carbon project in Kaiwa City Prefecture, and it involved carbon sequestration through the greening of land using Unity Green method and its patented technique. And it prevents erosion during land development. That's crazy. So you may be thinking, like, where do we really go with this? What about that example you shared earlier, Max, about Panasonic and solar panels? And this is why I wanted to bring it to you guys, because we don't, for the most part, speak Japanese. Some of us do. But you can see how this is exchanged here in the example, in that visual. And then when we get further down, what do we see? Does this not pound home the Panasonic hypothesis of solar panels and carbon credits and so on? Yes, literally, you see nothing but solar panels. So that's why I wanted to share it with you. And again, by having a reliable circulation achieved with blockchain tech, at the end of the day, NCCX, like it says, aims to address issues like data falsification, double counting by leveraging blockchain tech. Again, that sounds just like what Hedera is doing, but again, understanding which one is already going to lead the charge because where they're positioned in the world. So while we're waiting for the United States to get on board with everything, you got to keep in mind that Japan is already there, and you could go here if you want, jasmy.co.jp, review it for yourself. That is utility put into motion any way you want to look at it. All right, so I want to get into this next thing real quick, because I think it's very, very important, because sometimes people, I don't know, they don't understand the bigger picture, and that's okay. So I want to talk about, what is 1% of 1.11 trillion? Well, it's 11 billion. Okay, 11 with 9 zeros behind it is 11 billion. All right, can I give you an example of how Jasmy can reach a minimum from this particular sector? You stay to the end of the course. You want to know why. You deserve to know why. Thank you, and I appreciate all you guys that stayed to the end. So let's take you over to CMC for a second. As you can see right here, you have the closest one to this would be Cardano, and that's 12.798 billion. Jasmy sits right around basically like about 1 billion, give or take. Okay, the market's been kind of fluctuating. Okay, so the point I'm trying to get into is, 1.1 trillion. That's, like it says right here, 11 billion. So that's pretty close to that. We don't have an example of anything at 11, but that's pretty darn close. And again, we've seen Jasmy in this territory anyway. Okay, so we've had a pullback. So as we go over to here, Jasmy with the market cap of ADA would be 26 cents. That's a 13.61x. So the point I'm trying to make is this: don't get it twisted, and that is, understand that when it comes to Jasmy, just from the carbon credit sector, if you will, 1%, that's lowballing, is it not? 1% will get you roughly around this particular price for Jasmy. So yeah, when I say know what you have, know what you hold, the research trumps FUD 110%. I provided you a lot of research, and some guys don't like these deep dives. Hey, guess what? I'm not a channel that's for everybody. I realize that. I'm okay with that. But you know what? I like jumping into some of these examples. I like referencing real people that do research, like Brian, DipMetaVerse, Icy Amphibian, Lil Bidman, etc., Neo X Tricks, Minalogward, whoever else I didn't mention, Houston. The point is, these guys do real research. And we have referenced quite a few things in the past in regards to all this. So that's why I'm bringing it to you guys. This does not mean that Jasmy reaches these prices and only from this sector. This is one sector of many different things tied into IoT. Again, the bigger picture. Start combining all these different sectors that we have outlined. And how in the world can anybody come to the conclusion that this would go to zero? There's no way. Ask yourself this. People that are feeding people with that information, look at their video catalog. If their video catalog shows that they're getting tons of views because it's popular to say for all those things to go to zero, then what is the real true intent? I would challenge anybody to look at the real research, compare it to these other people that are feeding nonsense to people, stating that it's going to zero. And we'll just leave it at that. God bless those guys. They have a difference of opinion. We need to get out of the whole thing of attacking people, of course, just because we can't agree to disagree. I don't mean no offense to any of these guys. I pray for them. God bless them. But again, that doesn't add up about it going to zero. I'll leave it at that. I need to probably stop getting too much into that. But again, that's the bigger picture for me. I look at this and I say that in itself that's life-changing money for quite a few people that got into Jasmy early. And if you're the type of person who just came in, again, add up the potential for yourself. So that's where it's at. Glad to share it with you guys. And if anything, if you were the type of person that stayed to the end of the outline, do me a favor and simply type in 26. I will appreciate it. Thanks again for watching today's Jasmy outline. Follow people like Rob Crypto Future that will give you guys Jasmy content every day. He deserves it. Shout out to everybody that has covered Jasmy for a few years now. I appreciate you all. We'll see you guys on the next one. Over and out.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.